Today I'm joined by not one but two guests. It's restaurateur brothers Jack and Charlie Stein.
Hello.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Now, to clarify, Jack, you're like chef. You're to do with food, right?
I'm the food side, yeah.
Charlie, you're wine, booze.
All wine, booze, anything you can drink, even soft drinks.
Fantastic.
Who do you think chose a better path?
Oh, I don't want to say, to be honest. I feel, though, you've got a good kind of deal because you'll get served the good drinks. You don't have to worry about choosing them.
Yeah,
That's true, yeah.
Jack's tasting wine is quite dubious.
It's pretty dubious, yeah. Chefs, I don't know, a lot of chefs tend to drink whatever's available.
Well, we always start by asking, what did you have for dinner last night?
So I had a late lunch yesterday, actually, because I was driving up to London from Cornwall. So I was actually at Paul Ainsworth's pub, The Mariners. So I had Welsh rarebit, and I had a Scotch egg and some chips.
Very nice.
And then, I could say I had a kebab from Brentford Kebab Centre at about 11 o'clock when I got into London, but that wouldn't be quite... But yeah, that's pretty much what I had.
Would be true.
It would be true. I did have a kebab, yeah.
Charlie?
So yeah, I cooked for myself. So I do a kind of orecchiette, and it's a kind of take on a Pulian dish, which is the kind of crème de rapa, I think it is. So it's basically broccoli orecchiette with like Tuscan sausage.
Nice.
But I make that quite regularly for me and Laura.
So Jack, you're a chef stereotype, aren't you, really? You've gone and had a takeaway.
Stella and Donna meat and chips.
Now, you were both born in Cornwall, is that right?
Yeah,
correct.
But now, Charlie, you live in London but spend some time in Cornwall.
Yeah.
And Jack, you're living in Cornwall but spend some time in London.
Yeah, so Charlie's running the business as the kind of executive level, and I'm just doing the food and media side of it. So I'm in the kitchens and talking to the chefs a lot. Charlie does a lot more of the meetings than I do, which is quite handy.
And to clarify, that's your dad's restaurant empire, Rick Stein
company. So that's 10 restaurants and a whole bunch of other bits and bobs.
Online, retail, cookery school.
I got your bowls.
Oh,
nice, blue bowls.
Coves,
love them.
Yeah.
What do you think the main differences are between when you're in London and Cornwall, like food-wise?
Well, obviously in Cornwall, the food scene's obviously really, really good in terms of restaurants, but you need to know where you're going.
Sure.
We got great produce, and obviously a lot of chefs have moved from London to come down here. So we're seeing people like Paul Ainsworth and Nathan Outlaw and all that. They're opening amazing places. So we're quite spoiled, but obviously it's kind of a certain vibe. It has a kind of, you don't find a lot of great Asian restaurants like in London or great Middle Eastern restaurants. So you don't have that, but you do have great like Cornish restaurants with great produce. So we're lucky like that. But London, when you come up, it's just such a good food city. So for me, like I can't spend a lot of time in London because I do like being by the sea and I love London, but I can do a few days. Yeah. But I just eat and eat, and it's just so inspirational. And I think the thing with London is it's been very quick to move into new types of cuisine or whatever's coming up, whereas like places like Paris are quite rooted in French cuisine. I think London has been much more of like a multicultural kind of food. It's just amazing, and every time I come up here there's something else to eat or a new kind of like food trend that I've never heard of, so it's great. But I do struggle being up here for a long period of time because
need to see.
Yeah, I need to see, vitamin C.
Yeah, the healing properties. Charlie, is there somewhere that you always go when you go back to Cornwall? Other than, obviously, where you'd expect.
Yeah, to the restaurants.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, the seafood restaurant is it's such a unique place, and I just miss it so much. So that's why I go down once a month doing my board meetings and boring executive meetings, and I've always got to eat at the seafood restaurant. Okay. Normally a lunch. Normally sit at the bar and just kind of talk to the regulars and talk to the team as well, and just survey what's happening because it's such a fabulous restaurant.
And you're celebrating 50 years this year?
Yeah.
So Mum and Dad set it up in 1975. So.
Wow. And you've got the 50th cookbook coming out as well.
We've done a load of events. We had Dad. So originally it was a nightclub. Dad used to have it's called the Purple Tiger, and
he was on a couple of months ago telling us all about how it was closed down.
So they got closed down. Surprisingly, no one has yet, since then to now, nobody else has tried to open a nightclub in Padstow. So they were very much, it's not like an idea that was just bubbling under the surface. So 75 was when they got their restaurant license and kind of, and started. So we've done a few like events, like rollback menu pricing to the first menu, which was £2 for a lobster, which crashed the website, and had about 500,000 people. Like it was like trying to sell Glastonbury tickets.
Well, I think they said that the sort of tech team behind it said that it was the same amount of traffic as Ed Sheeran when he released his ticket.
Wow.
So it was
massive.
massive, yeah.
Gosh.
So and then we had a night with Dad DJing, which was quite funny the other night because he actually was slated to be on for about 20 minutes. I mean, he was still going when I left. Like, and I was like, it's probably 11:30. So I think it's been really nice. Again, like the 50th cookbook's been a good opportunity to kind of go back through the archive, because we remember the restaurant, as young children. When it was, when we were sort of in the mid to late 80s, when we were kind of understanding that it existed. But there's a whole period before we were even born. There's being able to see those old menus, talk to old members of staff, talk to some of our alumni, like people like James Knappett and Nathan Outlaw, and all these people that used to work for us, and just we're inviting them all down for celebrations later in the year. So it's been amazing. 50 years as a restaurant, you've got to be pretty happy with that.
Absolutely.
Especially in the current,
now.
Especially the current. I mean, obviously there are restaurants like Rules and places in London that have been open for a lot longer, but but
they haven't been continuously owned. So Rules has been owned by 3 different people.
Exactly.
So that like continuous ownership.
Yeah, I think the Gavroche was older, and Manoir's quite close behind. But yeah, we're like, it's amazing. And to be like that, to be like that in London is one thing where you've got millions of people. But to be like that in Cornwall, I think it's a real sort of inspirational for Mum and Dad to have done that.
And to keep it in the family, I think, is a great thing as well.
Yeah, it's been so we did a party, sort of ticketed event with Dad on the decks, and it was just got very emotional actually, just because we're talking about the old times, looking through old photographs, and me, Jack and Ed, our older brother, got up and talked, and just looking at the guests there and the customers and that kind of 50 years of creating amazing memories, and all the staff that have come through our ranks is just phenomenal.
And what did your dad play?
70s gear.
70s stuff, yeah.
I don't really remember.
I was dad. I myself was dad dancing, and
there's
some
Doors in there, LA Woman, I think there's some Van Morrison, kind of all that sort of, that sort
Love
of, all vinyl. I mean, there was talk of sort of, a bit of kind of, USB stick stuff going on early on, but I think once he got up there, he sort of realised that he still had it.
He was nervous though before.
He was really nervous, but it was quite funny because I'm like, are you going to mix it, or are you just going to stop one? Right, that's the end of that one. Now listen to LA Woman, sort of bring it up and down. But no, he did. He was good. It was good. My brother's a DJ as well, so they kind of worked on it together.
Because I didn't realise there were 3 of you until like literally this week.
Yeah, so Ed's works on the design with Mum, so him and his wife Kate are much more like, so say we're opening a new restaurant, they will be instrumental in that with Mum, or we're doing rooms or like whatever projects we're doing. So when we opened all like Barnes down here in West London, they did that, all the interiors and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, he's a board member and he does that with Mum. So they're kind of, I work quite closely with Dad. Charlie crosses over both, and he works quite closely with Mum. So yeah, it works quite well.
It's kind of the best job, isn't it, that one? Because you get to open it and then just sort of leave it for you guys to not mess up.
Yeah, I know. I've seen that. I have been that man. Yeah. No, I mean, like the thing is, restaurants. People who love restaurants, who love hospitality, it's a great job because you love moments with people and giving, like Charlie said, giving people memories that will last a lifetime. And there's something about the industry that really does. I always say to Pete, like to front of house staff, like if you get a compliment, doesn't matter. Like that's the best piece of turp I've ever had. Just bring it back to the kitchen because like you might have been in there since 7 a.m, but that will mean everything to you. And it's literally like happens all the time. And so in terms of being in and around the hospitality sector, I think it's in your blood. So I couldn't do an office job because I just start climbing the walls. I don't know what it is about my brain, but I just being kitchens, hospitality, making sure, and also it's like people come with an expectation and you want to exceed that as much as you can.
You need the busyness as well.
A busy restaurant, yeah.
Charlie, would you have ever gone into the kitchen, do you think?
I did my time.
Yeah. He did his time.
Actually, Jack was the head chef, and I came in, and Jack taught me a lot. Actually,
yeah, he did well.
My knife skills are great because Jack taught me how to use a knife. So yeah, I did maybe a couple of kitchens in between, like kitchens sort of summers in between uni and after school. But it was kind of little bit.
He drove you to drink.
Yeah, drove me to drink. Yeah, no, I just discovered wine, and actually I did want an office job, and I wanted to move to London, but I just fell in love with wine, and I did a tasting with my auntie, and she kind of just switched me on to wine and food pairing, oysters and Chablis, and there was a number of different things that were happening. I started to read lots of books and listen to a lot of kind of. So actually, Oz Clarke and James May's program in the he did a wine show.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I just thought they were hilarious. And it was that, and then a whole load of different things that just got me really enthusiastic about wine. And then I was like, this is what I want to do.
And do you think with your dad's passion for food and hospitality, it was always inevitable that you were both going to end up in the industry?
Absolutely. I think I just remember they used to have such great parties, and I remember coming downstairs, and Dad was friends with winemakers and suppliers, and a really famous wine supplier called Bill Baker, and I just thought they were having so much fun, and it was the wine element that I was like, there's something's going on here. I was too young to understand, but I was like, yeah. And Bill Baker was such a sort of bon vivant and such a character, and another friend, Len Evans, who was a winemaker. It kind of I really liked the idea of wine and hospitality, and it's just, I really like now looking after people and that pure essence of hospitality, of delivering really great service, great atmosphere, really good wine, and fantastic food.
I think with that, the wine trade are very good with the restaurant trade, as in you form relationship with wine suppliers, people like Bill Baker, John Armett, these people that you have a personal relationship with them. They come and sell you wine, and then they'll eat with you, and you kind of talk about everything, and I think Charlie's saying, these people were really instrumental. We remember seeing them growing up, and there's Dad's tasting notes and stuff that you read when he's tasting. I mean, sometimes Bill was selling him some pretty
pretty really dodgy vintages. They drunk quite a lot at lunch, and he was kind of put an order in, and suddenly the next day it turns up at the door, and Rick was like, I don't remember.
There's a bit of that, but very funny. And I just think that kind of, I think Charlie's he's saying that. I think wine and the food. I mean, you're now having coffee and cocktails. And there's a whole superstructure around restaurants that are trying to sell you stuff. But I think the wine trade do it in a really way that Charlie, I think, really relates to. It's kind of, it's sort of.
Well, I always said that chefs have the best palates for wine, and they're very. Jack's got an amazing palate. Dad's got an amazing palate, but they don't necessarily know the ins and outs of how it's made or anything. But instinctively, because they're great tasters, they really understand wine. And all of the old school chefs like Rolly Lee and Simon Hopkinson, who were great friends with Bill and Dad as well, they just have really great palates, and they understand wine in a way. So there's a sort of mutual connection and a bond, and it's chefs do have great palates.
Yeah. My old flatmate used to be a driver for Bill, apparently.
Oh, really?
Well, because we randomly went to your dad's house, I don't know if it's your childhood home, in Padstow, about 15, 16 years ago for a Christmas shoot.
Yeah.
And then my flatmate at the time said, "Oh, tell him I know Bill." And I was like, "I don't know who Bill is." And now I do.
Yeah.
So your dad obviously has super high standards. What's it like having to keep his empire alive?
Well, I mean, his food is very simple. It's very ingredient led. So you've got to make sure you're keeping on top of finding the best produce you can find, best fish, best vegetables, best. So there's nowhere to hide with simple food. There's no kind of you need to be very precise. But he is precise in an imprecise way. So it's I call it complicated simplicity, which sounds like something David Brent would say. But it basically it's you just need to make sure that what you're doing is not too complicated to look at. He likes very simple. His kind of mantra is fresh fish simply cooked, and so it is really about making sure that you're finding the best quality produce. And again, it's real basic stuff for chefs. Taste your food, before you send it out, make sure you taste it, things like that, and make sure, he's very keen on gadgets, so we use a lot of, we have always used probes, a meat probe, or, he's very, very hot on that. So it's not much. I mean, again, young chefs will try to complicate food, and I think it's about what we're trying to do with our restaurants is show people that you can achieve the same thing with less ingredients, less technique necessarily. It's quite easy to keep happy. Sometimes, he he does throw out the odd kind of funny one. Like he said, I'm not trying to be dogmatic, but this is exactly the way I went on the menu. He said to me once, and I was like, I think you are being dogmatic there, Dad. But yeah, like he's pretty, like he's not an angry chef. He doesn't shout, and also we've probably had a couple of heated moments in the 20 years that I've been there where we sort of have had a bit of an argument, but that's nothing.
That's 20 years, yeah, 2 and just good.
One a decade.
And probably, Charlie, for you, he loves you more because you're just always giving him wine.
Yeah. He's very discerning about wine, like I just said, but he kind of lets me get on with it. And there'll be some wines he wants on the list, very strong on Australia, so he'll just say, look, I think we need more from Australia. But generally, I can kind of do what I want, which is good.
Is it also quite weird because you're your own people, but you're kind of doing this under his name?
Well, I think, like, for me personally, like, I went off and I did some stages in some Michelin places, and it just didn't really, I just was like, I don't really like this. So, no disrespect, but like, I just found it too, either I wasn't good enough, which is probably the truth, but like, I just found it very over intensive and just didn't really seem like a lot of like fun, even though the restaurants were really, really good. I wouldn't like slate the food. It was brilliant, but it just wasn't really me. And I think then coming back and realising that Mum and Dad, because the two of them have built the restaurant brand, the simplicity of the style of the front of house is my mum and the food is Dad's, so both of them have got the same kind of basic concepts. And then when you when you go back down, so you come back from, I was in Laguiole at Michel Brass, which is a great restaurant. I've always wanted to be there, did a stage there. Amazing place, like legendary 3-star. So they've handed the stars back now, actually. But when I came back, I remember just walking around Padsa Harbour and just being like, this is simple because you can see the harbour, there's a piece of fish, that's it. And Mum and Dad have always had that. So for me, I find it quite easy, and I guess it's because I got older, and I think a lot of chefs as they get older start to prefer the simple things. I think not every chef, of course, but chefs will often, they love the place like the seafood, they love places like St John, they love places like the River Cafe because they're bustly, they're busy, and they just do what they say on the tin, and there's nothing, you're not going there to be seen because it's a scene, you're going there because you know the food's going to be good. So yeah, I think from my perspective, I think I've grown more into Dad's style of food as I've got older.
But it's kind of, I just wonder if it's limiting in a way because you are, but it's your family, I guess, isn't it? You're still under your family name.
Any chef in the restaurant can put a dish up in front of Rick and be like, can this go on the menu? Like, he will always taste it and he'll always give his honest feedback. And I've put dishes on the menu lots of times. I've had, dishes that he's even put in his book that I've come up with. So there is that creative outlet if you want to. And if you look, certain chefs through the years, quite often the ones that have gone on to be very successful actually in their own right have been the ones that have been prepared to say, right, Rick's coming in, I'm going to show him a dish, because they're the ones that like are trying to get feedback. So it's not dogmatic in terms of cooking somebody else's food, because you can put anything you want on. He just has to taste it, and he does trust me. Like, so for instance, if I said to him, I did actually say to him the other day, we have a new dish, it's an aubergine dish with it's a vegetarian dish going on the set menu, and he has never tasted it. It's never been on any menu, it's never been in any book. Now that is normally where he will be like, I want to taste it first before it goes on. And I just explained it to him in a WhatsApp, and he was like, yeah, okay, fine. So, but if it was, say, a new fish dish that was going on the main menu, maybe slightly different. But yeah, I mean, he's pretty easy to please, to be honest, because you just sort of keep it simple.
Which is kind of great, isn't it? Really lets the produce speak for itself.
Exactly, yeah.
And Cornwall's great for that.
And I spend a lot of time with suppliers, talking to them, visiting them, finding out what they're planting, what they're growing, what fish species are in, what's coming in, what's going out. So that's as exciting as, I mean, at the end of the day, there's only so many ways you can cook a piece of fish.
That should be your strapline. Charlie, you're the businessman, so like numbers, etc. Do you ever say no? Do you ever get like a veto to be like, sorry, no, that's from a business side, doesn't work?
Yeah.
And is that tension, or not that I want to create brotherly?
So we're family owned, so we, if it comes to it, we do have a vote. So if it was a new acquisition or growth thing that I was particularly passionate about, I'd get my point across, and if there's sort of disagreement, we'll vote on it. I
mean, there is, you've got Charlie's got the experience of working and living in London, so he's on much more on the kind of pulse of the food industry, if you know what I mean, in terms of what's working in London. Not saying that London's the capital of the world, because it's not, but we're just for the sake of argument. Mum and Dad have got the history and they've got the experience as well from a business case. You know, they've been through. Mum always used to say, "I've been through 3 recessions." It's now, I think, 4 in a pandemic, and so they're there to sort of like sense check everything, because we're, you know, Charlie and I are both very keen to kind of, you know, grow the business and do the next thing for the next thing and the next thing, and then but they're there as kind of a checks and balances on kind of like. But then there's obviously going to be a generational difference. You know, what Dad and Mum like to eat is different from what we like to eat as a, you know, late 30s, early 40s people. So you've kind of there is that kind of thing, but you've also, you know, you've got 2 of the most experienced restaurateurs in the country on your board, and if we were another business if you're to try and import that knowledge, you'd be paying a lot of money for it. So we're very lucky. So again, I trust Charlie's judgment, and I'll always back him up unless he wants to open like something that like is really a left field, which I can't think he would. And like a cat cafe or something.
There's definitely
quite like a cat cafe.
Been times when I've said no to them on things. You know,
the cat cafe.
The cat cafe would be a no. Yeah, absolutely.
So would you be second generation? Or
second.
So what?
Yeah.
Is there? Do you think there will be the third generation? Is there
there's
interest
plenty of
there?
them.
Yeah,
lots of them. Yeah.
I think. I mean, it's. I think when you're whatever your parents are interested in, you become interested in, right? So say if I was massively a huge football fan, my kids probably, you know, my kids love food. They love like sushi. My kids are 6 and 5. They'll eat sushi. They'll eat all sorts because I'm really interested in food. And I think that's what happened with our parents, because they were so interested in food and the restaurant was part of our growing up. I'd be surprised if our children don't share our love of hospitality and food, and that might make them more likely to, you know, and to become restaurateurs. And by that point, the Stein name will probably be quite well known as food, so it'd be nominative determinism for them.
Yeah, I think the same. I'm going to drag my kids around vineyards and markets.
Get them drunk.
Lives, so, get them drunk at the right age. But, you know, I think we're trying to create a multi-generational restaurant group, which is extremely rare. So
yeah, absolutely.
You know, here's to the next 50 years, I think.
Fab. What going back to your wine experience, what do you look for in a good wine?
So they've got to have soul, it's got to have heart, it's got to be, you know, producer-led, family-led, so, you know, a kind of story behind it. I like to meet the producers. A lot of them I do. Before I had kids, I travel a lot more, but I'd get to know them. Lots of our producers are good friends of mine, so I want to know that there's, you know, same with food suppliers.
Yeah, so I'm at Newton Fish Market, and he's down in South Africa.
You know, they've got to. I imagine sitting in the seafood restaurant and trying every time I taste a wine, will this be good with the food that we've got? So they've got to be fresh. It can't be like over extracted, over oaked, like too big and powerful. It's got to have finesse, but it's about the story and sustainable where we can, and find out a lot about it. You know, I'm very geeky in wine, so I'll go to the nth degree, and I speak a lot to producers and a lot to suppliers to make sure that, you know, there's soul to it.
It's funny because our wine list used to be a lot bigger, I think, when Bill was just selling us any old kind of stuff. But it was funny during COVID, we were sort of like, we're obviously all locked down. We have a wine warehouse, you know, and I was going in there sort of like, you know, trying some wine, you know, probably IOUs all over the place. And I remember just thinking that the wines that we're now selling are so, they're less of them, but they're so interesting, especially like some of the South African wines. It's just like really good value. And I just remember thinking, this is Charlie, you know, it's like, you know, because we weren't doing anything, all I was doing was just drinking wine and probably trying to...
sending me WhatsApps from the warehouse. I was like, don't.
Not that one.
Not that one.
But it was like, it's clear when you look at the wine list now, there's Charlie's voice on it as well, which is really good, because I think that's a really nice touch, which we've always done on the menus. Rick's kind of said, you know, on an ingredient, say like oyster charentaise, which is oysters with like a spicy sausage. It's like a French dish, and it says like enjoy with a glass of muscadet. So those little like touches, now Charlie's voice is on the wine list. It's really good.
The little stories, having met the producer, and, you know, me and Jack and Mum went out and to France to blend our white Burgundy. Those kind of things that that you can put on the wine list, but B, you can, you know, talk to the team and train the team. If they can come to the table side and be able to just say a story about our experience or Charlie's been down there and blended it, or the team's been out and blended it. It just helps that interaction with the guests.
And I guess adds to the kind of family vibe, which is what you're all about.
Yeah, exactly. You're selling a story. To be honest, same with wine and food. We're selling in the food side, and the same with the wine side. We're selling somebody's story. A fisherman's caught this. It's come straight from New Lynn. The veg has come from our gardener Ross, who's family friend, used to work as a chef. Those kind of things. And I think that really adds. It does. Eating out is expensive, and I think these things add to your value for money feeling of being connected to both the wine and the food.
And what about produce then? So that's what you'd look for in a great wine. But what are you?
Again, it's stories really, like our main fish supplier Matthew's been with us 20 years. He's a family business in St Ives. His son's a fisherman. His grandpa had a fish shop in St Ives. He's now doing wholesale. He's grown with us. And that, then we've got a local Padstow fisherman like the Mert. So Johnny Mert Jr., his granddad, Johnny Mert Sr., passed away a few years ago, but he was still fishing into his 70s, and him and my granddad and him went halves on a fishing boat. My granddad had bipolar, and he found that being out on the sea was quite calming to him. Johnny Mert Jr. will say, if anyone thinks going fishing with my grandpa was calming, but so there's that family connection to Padstow as well. Then the Geaches, who've got the farm up the road, we get a lot of our veg from. He used to be a chef for us, but also his dad had a veg shop in the town. So the longer you go, the more these connections kind of become like part of your story. So, and then the Warrens, again, Dad was using them for years. They're family, but again, second generation or third generation, they are hand selecting their animals. They supply, when you go into their chillers, you've got they're supplying all the big restaurants, the biggest, all the Michelin guys and girls in London. And so it's just we're really lucky. We're right there, so we get to kind of source the best of it. But then then you've noticed in the last, probably the last 15 years, sort of since that kind of pop-up era, 2010, 15, all of the bright young things who are now got their own places, James Lowe and Tom Adam and Gizzy and all these lot, they would all be coming down to Cornwall because they wanted to see where the produce came from. And it was the first time that had happened before. One of our veg suppliers, I remember there was a bunch of peas, pea shoots growing on this massive pile of manure, And he's like, they're going to this restaurant, which is a very famous restaurant in London. And I was like, have they ever come down to look? He's like, no. Never, but that changed then, and then everybody started to come to Cornwall to see, because they knew what we know, which is if your staff see where it comes from and they've got somebody that they can say this is from Ross Geach or this is from Matthew Stevens, that they can then sell that story in the restaurant, because that's just a change in the way we perceive food. We want to know the story in the same way as the supermarkets are catching on to that. Now they're trying to brand everything as farm, this, that, and the other, because it makes you feel. Cornwall's very lucky. We're very picturesque, and people think it is like a naturally sustainable county because all the ports are small. It's not got big kind of huge fishing fleets and stuff. So that's kind of where I am with produce, and it's quite a fun job really, because again, just get to talk to fishermen and veg growers. And,
Would you agree, Charlie?
Yeah, I think that from the produce, as well as we've got really good local drinks as well in Cornwall. So obviously we've got the international wines, but then we've got Camel Valley, and then the beer scene is amazing in Cornwall as well. Artisan Spirits, our Jim Tarquins is a great friend of ours. So as Cornwall's brand Cornwall grew and the provenance of the produce grew, then suddenly in that kind of gin wave, you've got lots of gin distilleries, cider as well. There's a lot going down.
Great.
I think as well, one of the things that I noticed was, as the internet and work started you'd find people were able to remote work a lot. This is before COVID. You started to find people with skills that were exported. So my generation, my mates, all came to London because they worked in marketing, city, whatever. But then you found these people coming from London and moving down to Cornwall because they could, remote work and stuff. And then suddenly you were finding these marketing companies, PR companies, setting up in Cornwall base focused on food and drink, and that's where I think that skills that were used to be exported to London coming back to Cornwall has kind of supercharged the brand Cornwall. So it's been really instrumental, and I think that's a lot down to the people that were coming down for a change of pace of life from London and other cities as well, and that's just given like the food and drink like a nice kind of creativity and really telling the story. So that's why obviously Cornwall's very, very popular amongst restaurants in London.
Great. We're going to move on to our next section now, which is my favourite dish, which is pretty clear from what it's called, I suppose.
We might have the same one.
We haven't compared notes on this one.
Charlie, do you want to go first?
So it's got to be a dish from the seafood restaurant. We're celebrating 50 years, and it's probably the dish that if I'm just in the restaurant just tasting stuff, I won't normally have this. But when I'm in there with the family or with Laura and the kids, then it will be Dover sole à la Meunier, on the bone, with burnt noisette, new potatoes, and a little salad. And I just love Dover sole. I love its texture, and then I just really like the ritualistic kind of taking apart and taking it off the bone. And I've got a specific way of doing it. It's just really comforting to me. It's very nostalgic. I have it so much, and it's just perfect for me.
I love Dover sole, but doing it myself would freak me out. I'd have to someone else would have to take that bone.
Well, we do it. We do it for you if you want. Yeah, we give you the option.
Jack?
Yeah, so for me, like, again, it's seafood. So, but it's a moment like lobster and chips, but it's a grilled lobster. So when Dad had his first commission from the BBC, he brought back some lobster. We never had lobster at home. Like, it was always just in the restaurant. Like, we wouldn't eat. And then he bought a bottle of white Burgundy, Polini Montrachet, but don't know who the producer was, but probably Robert Ampo or someone. And he brought it. And I was like 15, 16, and he was celebrating. And we had lobster and chips and this white Burgundy. And I just think that's in the 90s. Like, a lot of people would have said you can't put lobster and chips together, but now as restaurants just only do that. And I think that combination which we have on at the seafood is something, like I say, on a special occasion it's not cheap. Like, it's
£2 if you get there on the right day.
Get on the right day, yeah. So this just, I remember Dad being so excited about his TV show, and it was really interesting the way that they did it. Is that he had done a taster tape. So his old director, who sadly passed away recently, who worked with Floyd, left Floyd and came to work with him. And they sent a taster tape into the BBC, and the BBC rejected it. It was a kind of chop and chat kind of thing. Then they decided, director decided to shoot Dad down in the Barbican in Plymouth, where all the boats are, just talking like he does now. And they commissioned it based on that. And he was just kind of poetically talking about fishing fleets like he does a lot, and that's what he got in the commission. So he'd been turned down, and then he'd got a turned up. Yeah,
that's what we'll go with that.
Whatever. Not turned on, but turned up. And he celebrated with this. So whenever I go in the restaurant, I'm celebrating. That's what I have, and I just love, it's just like lobster and Burgundy is just match.
Very special meal.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to move on to culinary confessions. So, what is the one dish that you make better than anyone else?
Oh. Charlie, you go first. Or a chatty.
Yeah, probably. I make a really good chicken parm. So like, breaded chicken. With tomato sauce and then loads of cheese on top. Laura absolutely loves that, so I make that for her every birthday. And we don't go much. We've got 2 kids. We don't go out as much as we used to. So for Valentine's, I make that. So for her birthday and for Valentine's. So she says it's the best.
And is that with spaghetti? Do you serve it with spaghetti?
No, and then just a side salad, like a green salad, because I make it really. It's huge. It's big.
Oh, okay, like a massive chicken breast.
Yeah. Chicken parmo. That's like what people in like Sunderland have after a night out.
And the Aussie.
Yeah. I love it.
But not made with that much love.
No. Do you have bechamel with it?
No, I just had
tomato,
like a red
ragu
sauce.
Sort of, yeah.
Fab.
Roast dinner.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been doing it specialised. I've got, but the only thing I can't do is make Yorkshire puddings, which sounds ridiculous, but my mum's from Yorkshire, my nan's from Yorkshire, and I've listened to every single person try and give me a recipe, and I buy them in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, my mum still hear me say this. And then the other day, I was making it for the kids, and the Tesco's had closed, and I didn't, so I went on TikTok, so modern. And I put in Yorkshire pudding, and this lady, she had about 3 followers, and I followed her recipe, and it was the most amazing Yorkshire pudding I've ever seen or eaten. And I didn't comment or like or do anything on interact with her.
Yeah.
So there's no way of me passing to say, listen, you've changed my life. But yeah, I've got my gravy is incredibly complicated in terms of flavours. There's all sorts of like triggers to all your different tastes. So you got like mirin, soy, marmite, like cider vinegar, like the Vichy carrots, which are cooked in butter and tarragon and star anise, and like roast potatoes. You could do a whole piece on that. The beef itself, depending on what cut it is, you like I do a kind of reverse sear, low temperature, 55 degrees. The broccoli and carrot, the broccoli greens are all done with like confit, shallots and onions, which I've found out to do in a microwave. And this is like
blind. This is your home roast dinner.
This is my home roast dinner. Yeah.
What time do you start?
The day before, put the beef in overnight.
It is very good. I use you've got it in your book. Plug for the book. But I use that. I use your roast recipe all the time.
But now you will be making your Yorkshires.
No,
no.
I did it once. I'm not gonna lie.
You need to follow the good food recipe. Barney's classic.
Yeah, I have followed every. I don't to this day. I don't know what's wrong with it.
It must be your oven.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not a very good pastry chef. Let's put it that way.
What is your biggest cooking disaster?
I mean, I've had a few, but like I think my biggest one was mussel moules marinière. There's a lot of different recipes for it. So I used to make it at the cafe, and it's just like with onions and butter and wine, very simple parsley. The seafood restaurant does one which has got this infused cream, so it's cream infused with bay leaf, thyme, garlic. So you bring that to the simmer, and then you use that as the base, and then with onions and I think shallots and that. And it was the first day I'd ever cooked on starters. So when you start in a kitchen, you start, obviously I did kitchen porting when I was younger, but this is when I was a full-on chef. So you start doing like the little amuse-bouche and some veg stuff, and then you go on to starters, you start plating up. So you plate up for probably 6 weeks, so you get to see what all the dishes look like, and then you get to cook. So it's my first ever day cooking, and I am, we've got 80 in for lunch, and I'm like, here we go, first order, moules marinière. So I've gone into the fridge, taken a big ladle of the, soft my onions, ladle of this infused cream, mussels go in, toss them through, and then when you're cooking mussels, you check on them after a couple of minutes, see if they're open. And I open it, and it's just like I don't know what is in there. Like it's just literally congealed. So I like threw it in the bin, started again. I don't know what's happened now. I couldn't figure out in my brain what was going on. So I cooked another lot, and the same thing happened again. And I'm like looking down, and the chef is Dan Gedge, who's now at Lewin in West Australia. Where's the mussels? I'm like, chef, I don't know what's going on like that. And I showed him the pan, and what I'd done is I've been using a ladle. So there's 2 things that look exactly the same. One is a pancake mix with sweet corn, and so I've been putting this pancake mix in there. And I was literally like, when you just don't know, I'm like, what is this? Makes no sense whatsoever. So yeah, that was a disaster because it was my first ever time cooking. And when you're cooking, when people talk about going down or being in the weeds, and you kind of lose where you are. And I was in danger of going down on my first ever shift cooking, but I managed to put it together.
Mine was at home, so it wasn't that bad. I got a really nice rib of beef from Turner and George in Islington. All Laura's friends, trying to impress them when I first started sort of dating her. Obviously, everyone expects, and it's worse for me because I'm not a chef. Everyone expects that you've got the name behind you, that you're just this excellent cook, and I completely overcooked it. Really bad. Yeah. And that was when I learnt about using a probe. Jack was like, that you need to start using a probe.
It's the best thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's revolutionary. But for a home cook, you just don't worry anymore.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, since then I've always used a probe, and fingers crossed it hasn't happened since. But me and Jack are huge beef fans. Yeah. So for me, I was more crestfallen than everyone was like trying to make no one was being rude about it, but I was gutted.
And have you ever served something ready-made and pretended you made it yourself?
Yes.
Go on, tell us.
I was in Verbier. I was a chalet chef, and I had trying to make creme anglaise. I don't do pastry, but I had to make creme. It was my first week. My first clients were coming in, and I was spinning out, and I'd burnt it all. I had no cream left, so I went down to the co-op, and in there was a chef who used to work in the seafood, and I'm like running around. I'm going like, Steve, like I keep like splitting my creme anglaise. He's like, mate, just melt down vanilla ice cream.
Wow.
Yeah, so I did that.
And it just the
Just
same
creme
thing?
anglaise, that's what it is.
Amazing. Charlie?
No, I haven't. No. No. I thought about it quite a few times,
Yeah.
but no.
Never. Have you got a food guilty pleasure?
Cheese strings
Ooh.
and hot sweet chili and hot chili sauce. Yeah.
Wow.
Mine's a wine. I quite like Mateus Rosé, which was drunk a lot back in the day, and people hate it now. But
Is that the one in the funny shaped bottle?
Yeah, the Portuguese one. Yeah, I've got a guilty pleasure for that.
I'm pretty sure your dad said a similar thing, and his guilt is that he feels guilty having such a nice bottle of wine or something.
Yeah, he doesn't like spending
Dry your
too
eyes,
much.
Rick.
Yeah.
Right, quick fire questions then. What is your go-to meat-free meal?
So it's ottolenghi recipe, but it's like lentils with roasted red peppers. Roasted red onion. There's like a blue cheese on it, whatever you want, and then herbs. And then I do my mum's like grilled halved red peppers with thyme, garlic, cherry tomato, salt, and then on the side of that I do from another ottolenghi one, which is like carrots with like yogurt, dill, and what's that gear called? The orangey flavour, cinnamon. Yeah.
You should never choose a
anchovies.
Yotam recipe if you want a quick fire answer.
No.
Spaghetti pomodoro. So
Great, thank you.
I cook that a lot. In fact, I'm probably the best at cooking that. I cook it all the time. once a
I'm
week,
seeing
yeah.
pasta a lot. Tomatoes are like...
We've got young children.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course. If you could eat one cuisine for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Thai.
Well, everything I said was Italian there, so yeah, it has to be Italian. It's so varied. You could eat forever. You would never get bored of. It's just such an interesting cuisine to me.
Best kitchen advice for reducing food waste?
So think like veg stocks are great. So like you have your trimmings of stuff, keep them in a little pot, and then when you've got enough like carrot trim or whatever, make a veg stock, reduce it down, freeze it.
Great.
Boring, but meal plan. I meal plan on a Sunday night.
Oh, really?
And I know exactly. I got kids. We
Yeah.
know exactly what we're eating at every point. It's
Yeah.
very organised.
Oh my
but then I
God.
know what.
I
to
go
buy.
into the supermarket and don't know what I'm eating.
So you make the meal plan and stick to it, I think is the key, right? People are saying
unless
now.
something unless something drastic happens. But normally we order on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
We don't go to Waitrose anymore or any other supermarket because we've got kids, so we order it. So I know exactly what's coming in the week, and we meticulously meal plan it. It's so boring and very, very organised for me, but it works.
Right, if you were a flavour of ice cream, what would you be and why?
Like clotted cream vanilla, like Cornish clotted cream, Kelly's.
Because you're like Cornish to the core.
Basically, yeah, full of cream.
Probably rum and raisin. I like drinking.
Is there a food you always eat on your birthday?
Birthday's Halloween. I'm eating a steak if it's my birthday. Yeah, normally, yeah.
Nice.
A drink? Can we do a drink? I probably drink. I drink something special on my birthday. I always drink a nice Burgundy. So I've got a nice little cellar. So I'll pull out a really good Burgundy.
Really good.
And as I'm getting older, they're getting better. And I've got a big birthday this year, so I'm looking for 85 was an exceptional Bordeaux vintage. I've never drunk a proper 85 Bordeaux, so I'm just putting feelers out there to my
Wow.
family.
I've already bought his birthday present. It ain't an 85 Bordeaux.
I guess that must cost a fortune, does it?
It will do, yeah. But
Wow. Blimey.
I've got some friends in the trade. So.
What's the best kitchen tip you've ever been given?
Season as you go. So when you're making it, making anything, when you put on, say making bolognese or whatever, put your onions in, a bit of salt, put your garlic in, tiny bit of salt, carrots, every time you put something new in, a little bit of salt. So you're seasoning every element. So rather than seasoning everything at the end, you season as you go, and then you shouldn't have to season at the end.
Lovely.
Jack's tip with a probe, and I mean now I pass that on to people, and they're just in their eyes, they're like, "What?" And like, yeah, every time, just probe it every time. And
Yeah.
they can't believe it. So yeah, just the probe. 100%.
Great. Final quickfire question is: what is the worst thing you've ever eaten?
Oh, this sea cucumber.
Yeah.
Oh, God. We were watching the cricket in Manchester, and we were in this Chinese restaurant in Chinatown, and this guy recognised the old man, and he brought us a sea cucumber, and he was convinced it was like good for virility or whatever. And honestly, the actual restaurant food was amazing.
Yeah,
It was
really good.
But this is just not my vibe, man.
Also, he stayed watching us eat.
and
it
I
as well.
couldn't, I had to go to the bathroom and I had it in my mouth.
wow.
I couldn't swallow it. I'm like, And then I just like had to excuse myself, and then no. Sorry.
Right, final question. What does good food mean to you?
Well, I think it's not just about the food. It's about the drink. It's about your people you're with. You know, there's a guy called Paul Rosen who's a psychologist who does a lot of research into food, restaurants, this, that, and the other. And he will in his research often finds that it's not, people don't really remember what they ate. They might remember the main course, but they remember who they ate it with and what, so I think chefs we can be guilty of thinking that once it's on the plate, that is everything, but it's not. It's about whether or not food and drink, you have food and drink at so many important parts of your life, whether it's, first date, Christmas, all these different occasions we eat, and then going to restaurants. And I think it's a whole thing. And for me, it's about it being, you have to understand that you're all part of your food and drink.
Yeah.
The wine's important, the food's important, the ambience is important, the people you're with is important, the service is important, everything's important. And you have to try and get that exactly balanced right. And when you do, it's just, there's nothing better.
Great.
Yeah, I mean,
what he said.
Good on. But yeah, food food that's just lovingly prepared. When you're really into making a dish for friends, and it's that social element. When you're really putting all of your effort into it and you're really enjoying it, I feel that comes out in the food. Something to be proud of. So
it's nice that when you were saying about Laura that you make that for her birthday.
Yeah, and
that's nice when you those little touches,
memories. Yeah. Lovely. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been really, really lovely to talk to you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this Good Food podcast. If you'd like to listen to more of our podcasts, search Good Food wherever you listen to your podcasts. For more recipes and inspiration, go to goodfood.com or download our app.